3, 2, 1. I'm going to give this just a moment, and I think we're live. All right. Hi, gang. Welcome back. Hi, I'm Christopher.
I'm Angela.
Yeah, we are the Dinosaur Omelette. Welcome again, guys. Thanks for coming in. This is live number a lot. We've been doing this for a while. And tonight we're going to be talking about choosing the best homestead property. Choosing out your perfect homestead property, which is a big concern for a lot of folks. A lot of people are still interested in starting their homestead or even transitioning their current property into a usable homestead. Let me turn that down. It's me talking in the background. Sorry about that. Oh, Shannon's in there. Hey, Shannon. So, Shannon, you're watching the Facebook, and we're also on the YouTube at the same time. So we're both on there. Thanks for coming in. What'd you say?
I miss watching you guys.
Oh, thanks, Shannon. We've been on the YouTube for the last 9 months or so, 10 months, for a while.
Yeah.
So to you new guys, anybody new who likes subscribe, we really appreciate it. We hope to offer useful information. So these lives aren't just ramblings. They're supposed to, but they're structured, and it's educational, and it's usually an academic presentation of a specific topic, not just flying off the top of my head. Let me just talk about how my day went, which is fine too. People do that, but we want you guys to, your time's extremely valuable, and even if you're just laying in bed, that's a time you can, plan, grow, and do things, and have forward momentum.
Yeah.
Read a book, watch one of these invigorating videos, and learn something. So tonight we'll be talking about that wonderful subject of picking out the perfect homestead property, which can be, what do you call it, daunting, but not impossible. What did Shannon say to us?
She's like, I can never find you on YouTube. I'm subscribed, but can't find your lives.
Oh, God.
Advice?
Yeah, it's in the live video section. You go up to the top, there's video lists.
Tabs.
Yeah. For some reason, it doesn't populate them in the general video list, but it'll be in the live video list. Like a playlist. What?
Yeah, so that when you go into somebody's channel, usually it'll have like home, videos, live, and a playlist, and something else across the...
Yeah, and these lives are more long form because we kind of go in depth about stuff. People have very short attention spans, and they usually like TikTok brains taking over. Not good. Okay, so
However, I have heard actually that podcasts that go on for quite a while, can go on for like over an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, have risen in popularity.
Okay.
So I think people are enjoying those type of platforms, live and podcasts, that way, because you're like, it's almost kind of like you're connecting with people because you're getting to know them.
Yeah, and you're learning something.
Yeah.
So put the long format stuff on when you're driving in the car or doing the yard work. I usually pop them in the earphones and try to learn something while I'm toiling away in the soil. Okay, so anyway, you guys who are new, Angela and I started our little homestead about 4 years ago during Corona apocalypse. Everybody went nuts. Here's the thing, and you're going to find that there's properties that are popping up now because a lot of people did that, and they woke up one day and said, hold on a minute, this is a lot of work. I'm done with this. All right, it is, because
it was such everybody was, well, it seemed like there was so much fear being pushed on people everywhere worldwide, and it was like a lot of people weren't necessarily making very sound decisions, possibly, and other people were.
We are emotionally impulsive creatures. We do impulse actions. That's why we're very easy to manipulate, and that's why I don't like that stuff.
Yeah.
Advertisements, everything we hear is capitalizing on the way that we can emotionally manipulate people at a deeper subconscious level through our language. I don't like that. It's kind of cheesy to do and cheating, so we should not get people into... we shouldn't use people or manipulate them. Honest, truthful, factual, objective presentation to allow people to make good decisions. I would like that. I expect that respect, and thusly I would extend it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Make sense? That makes sense.
So,
I wouldn't make a good sleazebag or a mafioso if I could put it that way. I wouldn't be a good bad guy.
Yeah. But anyway, so you were saying,
everybody...
potentially properties, but potentially not. It just depends, I guess, on where you are.
And we'll talk about that. But yeah, there's people went in, got their little homestead started, And it was cool for the year, cool for 2 years. Man, it's a lot of work, 3 years, and then 4 years. I'm like, all right, okay, I'm going back to the office. Or wait, they don't even go to the office. They work at the computer. So you are finding properties popping up, and I guess 2-3 years ago, everything was ungodly expensive, property-wise.
I think they still are.
And they still are.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to discuss too much about budgeting. That's a whole other huge subject. Your financial position, that's something completely I would put separately because it's a huge issue and it needs to be addressed as such. So this is more of a fun look, and not really just fun, but practical look at things that are going to be of great importance when selecting property. Anything else you want to add before we start blabbing?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, we're gonna. The main thing we talk about the most, I think, is it's the first thing we have on our list here. So, which is goals. So no, I don't have anything.
There's a quick thing. I was going to say something about this. I don't even know, but actually I do. So we are going to be talking about section 1 is I do these little outlines so I don't get lost. So you guys, I'm not cheating too much. I actually write this stuff beforehand, so I have a good outline for you. So we're going to be talking about understanding your goals. Before we even discuss this, something I didn't include, but it should be mentioned, and it kind of goes back to what I just stated previously, is the emotional impulse, When we desire something, we kind of create this icon,
You idolize or...
You're making this fable or this story in your mind that may not reflect reality, and you're chasing this, this construct that's in your head, and it's very driving emotionally. It's like, oh, I see this thing, it brings me peace, it makes me happy, and you have all these idealized versions of what you're looking for, and you're seeking that out, and that can be self-defeating,
Yeah, if it's not explored in a deeper, further way. Yeah.
So it's like the emotional thing, which is great, but then...
Yeah, it's good for the vision, good for the inspiration.
We don't want it to override. Yeah, you don't want it to override in practicality and objectives. So off we go. So selecting our perfect homestead property. Does such a thing exist? I don't know, but a lot of people would say yes. They love where they are. It's there's advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, right.
Selecting
There's pros and cons to everything.
So understanding your goals. So this is the first part of this thing I want to discuss is goal setting. We always talk about that, and for property, it's going to be even more important because you're going to be there for a while, and you're going to be investing a lot of your time and a lot of money, most likely, into the development of this property. Unless you're buying a prefab, everything's done, which usually that's not how this whole homesteading thing goes. Homesteading's about what? Self-sufficiency. Right?
Yeah, and your personal goals for you and your family, so that will look different.
Sustainability.
From family to family.
Yeah, reproducibility, whatever you're doing there. So a lot of what you're doing in your homestead is skill development as you're developing your property. Like, oh, I'm going to learn how to do this, then I'm going to construct it.
And then the management of everything.
And then I'm going to learn how it works, and then it's going to get better and better as it's going on. So understanding the goal, like what are your goals? And that goes back to the big what question?
The big why?
Yeah,
like why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you interested in this? The more specific you can figure out the why you want to have a homestead, why you want to pursue or investigate or look into properties, the more specifically that you can whittle down that why, the better, because that's what's going to be your driving force for you as an individual, especially when things can, because life isn't just always exciting and roses, and rainbows and stuff. It's challenging, which is good because we grow in challenge. But anyway, your why is what's going to push you through when obstacles come up, and when you might have difficult time.
Yeah, and that's the emotional component. There may also, of course, be a financial component. Like maybe you're actually wanting to start a homestead to diversify what you do professionally for your income. I want to start growing whatever, X, Y, and Z, and hopefully not only pay for the production of X, Y, and Z, but pull a profit and start to grow that. Is that a particular goal? You know, these your goals are yours, and you need to understand why it comes.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Your why is that as well. It's also what's going to keep you on track. So as you're going, it's going to be easy. Just with life stuff, distractions will pop up, or maybe you'll be tempted to wander over and investigate and learn, about this new animal that you weren't originally thinking about, incorporating, or maybe this different business endeavor that you weren't really originally thinking about incorporating, and it could pull you away, like derail you from your whole goal, vision, why that you established in the beginning. Now, it is okay for your why to change, to morph, and
Sure, you're growing as a person, your property's going to grow.
But if you have, and again, if you whittle it down to specifics, your why, then you're going to be able to track yourself, have goal posts to accomplish as you go, and you'll achieve something. If you aren't really sure, if the why is very vague, then as you go, you will, you might end up going not very direct, or you might get distracted, and then that is potentially going to discourage you, because you started out thinking, I want to accomplish this. And then if you're not focused on that why, then as you go, you might end up way off to the side and be super discouraged. So yeah, it keeps you on track.
Absolutely. Very good. Thank you very much, Angela. That was very good, very thorough. Oh, you know what? Now we're sitting here. Oh, wait. Facebook people, if you're watching this on the Facebook, our dinosaur sign is backwards. For some reason, that app mirrors everything in the YouTube straight. But so why did we do this? Why? Why did we do this? Well, I can tell you why I enjoy this. It's a lot of work. You have your chores. You wake up and you usually have a set of chores you're doing each day. And it's a lot of work. And then things break and you're fixing stuff. And then you have to, it's never ending. But I much prefer that than sitting in a box around, driving through the traffic. The thing with this is, I'm not putting down office jobs or anything. But the thing with working with one's hands in soil, around animals, and around all of this sort of thing.
Seeing the sky, the trees.
It is, the way I look at it is, it's an extension of self, and the production of your labor is you. It's a part of you. You produce it. You can grow a potato. Oh, look, this potato is actually the hours I put into amending the soil, the time I took into growing the little root, the time I got into filling up its potato area and harvesting the thing. It's not just a potato. It's all that interaction and intimate involvement with the soil and all the other things working around here. Oh, this is the rabbit manure that I tossed in there from my rabbit patch over on the other side of the area. And so you become very intimately involved with the production of this food. And guess what? The food you're making, it's usually pretty healthy. It's good for you. It's real food. It's not prepackaged, ultra-processed chemicals that are killing 90% of the country.
Yeah. Keith said, well said.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Keith Carter, what's up, man? Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah.
Talking about the old homestead. So we're talking about understanding goals, and I think we're about done with that. I don't want to go, we could talk for days on a goal for what a homestead might be. But like I said at the beginning of this thing, homestead generally, I'll let you talk. I talk a lot. Generally defined is, where you're engaging in some kind of agricultural activity for self-sufficiency and sustainability. And that may include not just food, animals, plants, and energy, etc.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things you could focus on. Yeah, I was going to answer the question too. You said, why are you doing this? And I was just going to say, similarly, for me, just with the whole health and food industry and all that stuff, trying to be involved in producing our food as much as we can, as far as the meat and eggs go, and vegetables, and cooking. It's just the whole lifestyle. When Christopher talks a lot, because he cooks, he's like a chef. He makes all sorts of foods, and he makes it with basic ingredients, which usually is the healthiest for you. It's been
from the dirt
it's
into
not
the pot.
been messed with in the sense where chemicals, it's coated or it's been processed or anything like that. And so when you're starting with these basic ingredients and then adding to it and giving flavor with spices and stuff or meats or what you have at your homestead, it's just it really helps to appreciate what you're eating and where it's coming from, the energy in making it, and the quality of life. So then when you're raising animals, like for us raising the quail, the different animals or food sources, it's just the appreciation for the process is greater, because it's like a circle, the circle of life. Like it's just, it all ties together, and it's not like, it just all ties together with health and wellness, and
it becomes it becomes your world. Your worldview is your little homestead, and that's really how we see things here. You may be different, obviously. Everybody's individual. You're gonna have your own version of what your reason to do a little homestead, or even growing a garden. You guys watching this, you don't need to start and go think about buying a homestead. Maybe just grow a little garden in your backyard, get some vegetables, just do something that rewards you with production of your labor in the form of those yummy foods.
Yeah.
And then you collect the seeds and grow them again. It's really, it's a very rewarding. You cannot put a price on it. There's not like a dollar value. I know we're very materialistic in our world, and we like to quantify things by dollar value. But this is an experience that you can have people blabbing for days, cannot convey in any way a dollar value to the reward that you get from doing this kind of work.
Yeah,
it is
invaluable.
It's So that I'm not going to give it.
That's just partial why, but
so,
anyway.
So, one of our goals. And as many of you know, we do our little quail here. If you guys check in the description, we have our quail, how to raise them, free little checklist. There's a lot of educational stuff. But that was our contribution to the community at large, was our specialty is the jumbo Coturnix quail, these food producers, and then somebody gets quail from us and they get pepper plants from somebody else and they raise sheep from somebody else. Each of these other homesteads or people who are doing a production for distribution, they contribute to one person, and everybody's contributing to that, and they become self-sufficient and start doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
And then the community as well,
Absolutely.
Anyway.
All right. So evaluating, section 2, evaluating potential properties. What are we looking for? I didn't really put these in a list of importance, except for the first one. I think, in my opinion. Things we might be looking for on our potential property. Keep in mind, most of these may seem, obvious or intuitive, and some of them may not. But number one, availability of water. The most critical resource. Everything is predicated on that water. Where are you getting water?
And like you said, this may seem obvious, but we touched on emotion earlier. And it is so important to have your list of the key things if you're looking for a place, of what you're looking for specifically, because it's so easy. If you're looking around at places to get super excited and emotional and compromise, and then later, buyer's remorse, realize like, whoa, there is no water source here, or there is.
We should have bought the littler place down the road that had the big pond or something.
So make sure you know what you're looking for and you stick to it. Know what you can compromise on. So go ahead.
Yeah, know the importance of water. If you haven't had experience doing any kind of farm activity, or if you haven't had the wonderful opportunity to not have water for a period of time to understand its value, you should do an experiment. Turn the water off at home for a couple days, if you can, just to see what it's like to forage for your own water. We had to do that. That was fun. Remember? Pump went out. It was the middle of winter.
It was like Christmas. Our pump went out.
It was actually, it was miserable, but it was a good experience because people have no idea how much water you're using.
Yeah.
Especially with animals. They drink gallons and gallons and gallons of this stuff. The more animals you have, the larger your scale, the more water you're going to need. And then we're getting into an area of, legal issues. How much water are you using for agricultural purposes versus casual hobby farming? Yeah. So the importance of water, I really don't think I could overstate that. We are very blessed. We have a spring that runs. We have a regular people well, you turn on the waterfall. And we have a hand pump well. I think we use, what do we use the most? The hand pump well or the spring?
I think it's pretty equal.
Yeah. So I'm out there every day.
We use them both daily.
With the hand pump well. But we're lucky to have that because we use it and it's a very reliable source of water. Anyway, availability of water on the property is extremely important. And is it year-round water? Some places, you have a wet season, maybe spring, and then by late fall, it's dry. So is this a reliable water source? It might be a really beautiful water source. You're looking at it in June, and it's gushing water, and you're like, oh yeah, that'll satisfy whatever we're doing. And you come back in November, and it's
or even end of summer.
Trickling, or end of summer.
Yeah.
So also know the seasonal precipitation and water flow in the area.
And then also important is where, I don't know if you mentioned this, where is the water source located on the property in relation to how you're going to have to interact with it. So where would you
talking about, Willis?
Anticipate animal pens or however, is it, you want to think about like, was it really far away from your buildings, structures? Is it downhill? Is it uphill? Is it really close? Because you're going to have to get the water, if you're using that water source.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get it to...
either pump or you're going to be storage tanks up on the property somewhere. So, but yes, and is it going to, again, like, are you going to be able to get the number of gallons out of that water source per day? Or do you have adjacent properties that are using the same water source? They're going to run it dry. Depends on how much water is flowing out of your well. So check that out. Very important, especially with this whole homesteading thing. Regular, normal humans, they're buying bottled water at the grocery store and they don't really think about it too much. But the homestead people, the people little farms, they're using tons of water for their critters and they know how important that is.
Yeah.
All right, so I think horse has been thoroughly beaten. Okay. I wouldn't really beat a horse in real life. Okay. Number 2. Do you want to read about that? That's important.
The light exposure.
Oh, she ruined it.
What? How did you want me to say?
I'm supposed to announce it like a surprise. Number 2.
Light exposure.
Light exposure. What kind of light exposure will your property?
So some places might not have trees much on the property, so they might have like full sun all day long. During the whole sun hours. And perhaps something to think about too, which I don't think this is in here.
Ooh, let me mention something about this. Because you brought up a good point. We live in Amish country. And have you noticed every Amish house is bathed in sunlight?
Yeah.
They're all in the sun because they're using them as working agricultural places. Go ahead.
So you'll also want to keep in mind...
Scott Erdman, hey man.
The shade. Is there any shade that will provide cooling, for animals or even yourself? Is there a lot of shade? Are there a lot of trees and where you anticipate having certain animals or crops? How much sunlight is hitting that area and for how long? Because the sun shifts. Is there a mountain nearby? Is it a valley? So these are different things you're going to want to think about how and visit the property, several times throughout the day to be able to analyze the sun and how it's laying and sitting and in the property.
Yeah, and if you're going to be doing a permaculture system, that whole sun exposure is going to be hugely important to how you're setting that up, obviously. We, like I said, we were blessed with a ton of water. But the trade-off is we're at the bottom of the collection point, so we're in the valley, so we have a lot of shade. So the shade for us isn't a problem because we're not growing tons of crops. We have a lot of critters. But the shade's great too because when it's 150 degrees out in the main area on top of the hill or towards town, it's much, much cooler here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because
of that the cooler areas down here. We're by the water naturally cools the area. The leaves act like natural, what do you call it, air conditioners because of all the, there's tons of water sitting up in the canopy of these trees, and the breeze blowing through there, it cools it down quite a bit.
But like there are times where, because we're in a valley, it'll be early evening. And oh hey, Flyer Dad, it'll be early.
My Dutch cousin.
Evening.
What up? Hi.
And it's like really kind of dark here, but you can see through the trees and like up. Whoever lives up the hill is in full sun because they're not in a valley. So then I'll go just to like get out of the shaded area to be in this. I'm exaggerating, but
it's not like Mordor. It's
to enjoy more sunlight. But my point in saying that is, then you might be thinking like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to have too much shade. I want to be in like as much sun as possible. But remember, and I kind of mentioned this already, remember that is going to be heat then, right? And on your house too. So then your house is gonna, how is it gonna be cooled? Is the air conditioning and all that stuff. But the animals, that might affect the type of animals you end up having or how you manage their health and heat and such. Is there a few mature trees, or are you able to plant fast-growing trees? Those sort of things, because they do provide a nice amount of shade, and which Christopher mentioned, it does cool it down. So you might be somebody who just wants as much sun as possible because it makes you feel really happy with the vitamin D and the sky, but just remember shade is important. So
happy? I don't care about happy. What's my goal?
Being happy is part of that.
Be happy. Do you have a greenhouse for the crops? Good question. No, I don't. I'm not a good gardener. I like to garden. I'm in the garden a lot. I don't have a greenhouse.
Not yet.
I don't know if I want to put one in. Maybe just a simple hoop house this winter or something for the cold crops. But no, I don't have a greenhouse. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm admitting it. No greenhouse. But
they are nice to have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I do so much. We'll see. Maybe eventually. It's another big chore because you see how much time the garden takes.
I call him Farmer Joe.
Seriously, I can go buy a 50-pound bag of potatoes for like $10, right? Or I could spend the entirety of the summer laboring over the equivalent amount of potatoes. But the reward,
of life.
the quality and the reward that I get from my laborious slave potatoes that I grew myself is much greater.
You can speak with love about those potatoes.
Yeah, than the bag of potatoes out that I purchased.
Yeah.
And again, you could talk about the sustainability of what you're growing. You can reproduce it. Once you got one potato, you got potatoes for infinity. Speaking of which, anybody saw The Martian? Remember that movie with Matt Damon up in space and he grew his potatoes in Mars? Never would happen. Never would happen. I may have mentioned this before. It's so upsetting. The soil in Mars, it would be like trying to grow a potato on a ground up plastic board. There's nothing in the Mars soil that's going to allow growth of any kind of a plant. So
yeah, because was he shoveling in the soil?
I should have been a boo. Yeah, he would have starved to death pretty quick. But anyway, so we talked about light exposure, water, soil quality. What goes next? And again, guys, get with people and learn about your permaculture systems before you even go evaluating. The wise thing to do is work with a specialist in selecting a property who knows about how to set these things up and design a permaculture setup at whatever your property is and whatever assets you have at that property.
And mention, what is the importance of permaculture? I want to mention that.
A sustainable system that's mimicking natural systems that you're going to find, that you don't have to mitigate with artificial fertilizers and
so potentially using different types of animals on rotation.
It's a design system.
Different types of plants, that affect the soil and quality of the soil. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of information available now of people who actively rehabilitate or work to make poor quality soil into really lush, great, soil. But yeah.
The world's best soil is called loam. It's a mixture of sand clay and what is the other one? Silica. It's it's the perfect kind of soil. It's a 1, 2, 3 mixture.
But it is important to know what the soil is, the soil type, because that can affect your goals. If you're anticipating, getting started and doing certain things, and then all of a sudden nothing's growing, or using a chicken tractor, yes, to fertilize the ground. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And people do that.
Yeah.
They'll start working on a field and working in all the organic matter one season to get that growable. So our little garden patch, I know what you mean. Yeah, our little garden patch was it was like Mars soil. It was just dead clay, I guess. It was not good for growing anything, but we amended it.
Yeah,
I worked in organic matter, and now it's deep black with tons of worms and all kinds of happy critters living in there. So it's very lively soil, and it didn't take very long. I think it was just
but it's something to know, is it,
soil
rocky
quality
and all that stuff, so you can anticipate your goals.
In evaluating your potential properties, we're talking about water, we're talking about light exposure, and the soil quality. Oh, that's a new follower. Velvet, is that her name? Mm-hmm. Velvet with a doggy picture. Hi, hon. Thanks for stepping in.
Hi.
So soil quality and the fertility of the soil. Next on this list is the topography and the way the land is flowing. Again, I don't want to keep talking about the permaculture thing, but that's important too, because it's telling you, where is your water flowing? Do you have drop-offs? Is there a place that's not really usable for your crops? Hi. So the topography.
Yeah, that's true, because there might be a property listed. Maybe it says it's like 15 acres, but 10 of it is just like this drop off a cliff or whatever, or it's super rocky with all these trees, and you really can't use most of it.
The drop off may be desirable, though. That's a security area. Nobody's coming up your drop off. It's just
depends on what your goals are.
That's my lookout cliff. Yeah, if that's one of your goals, you can have that as your privacy area. So taking a look at the topography of the land. Things you're not thinking about, and why that's important, is during rainy season you may have floods come through. So, springtime, and we're all familiar with that. An area that's usually it rains, it's fine, but in those big spring floods, everything's getting washed out. Rocks and sticks and debris. And it's because of the topography of the land. It's just directing path of least resistance, so the water's going there. The same with these properties. Do you have a high flow area in the spring, and is it problematic and does it need to be abated?
Cliffs are great for gravity fed irrigation.
Exactly.
Or
I lost
a very good point.
Or you live in the Netherlands under sea level, but the soil is rich. Yeah, they have good soil.
Yeah.
Marissa Robinson, is that seaweed reap?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Marissa.
What was the last?
Hang on. Cliffs are great for gravity fed irrigation. I'm reading on my cheat board here, which is the other YouTube thing.
The comments don't disappear there, but they disappear on our phone.
Disappear.
So, and then
what do your cliff gives you? High pressure water irrigation.
Oh, that's true. And then also weather patterns. Again, just example where
that's my next one we're talking about. Let's just move into that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Climate and weather patterns.
Is there like any kind of mountainous areas around that if storms come through, normal storms come through, will they just kind of pass over your area or that area because of the protection of the mountains? Or is it a open area where it's very, very windy? There's some areas that get super windy, which can cause damage to people who have tractors, large tractors, like Connie. She had those big chicken tractors in the wind.
They can get blown over.
Yeah,
lose a bunch of chickens, sure.
Those are things to consider, and if that's okay, then you'll then know. Oh, this can be a potentially windy area.
So
how can you better prepare when you're setting yourself up?
We're in southern Lancaster County in Pennsylvania. It's very mountainous. They're not big mountains, but we're in a protected valley area. Mm-hmm. Right next door to us, over the river, the Susquehanna River, is what's called York County, and that place is like the Midwest during tornado season.
It's very windy.
It's always windy over here. It's very windy compared to over here, because we go back and forth. So the area, and it's not a huge deal, but it's something that you may want to really look into if that's an issue for you. Like
or more severe types of weather, like tornadoes and such.
Yeah, but definitely the weather, your local weather, your climate in the local area. And they can change. You can have different weather from one area to the next. Like where we are, 10 miles south, it's a whole different story with snow and precipitation. Low spots can have different microclimates. Sometimes they get, oh gosh.
It disappeared.
Low spots can have different microclimates. Sometimes they get frost when higher spots don't. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have our tornado shelter. We don't really get tornadoes over here where we're located. That's more out west from us.
There's been a couple small ones like further away from us, but we've
My
never
tornado
had
shelter is this. That's all I got.
Yeah, but we're not really concerned.
We don't have a tornado. Remember Dorothy and everybody were supposed to go down into the
cellar?
The cellar, right. I mean, we have a basement, but that would be about it.
But yeah, depending on where you are, we've kind of mentioned, is it known for having a drought? Are there floods, storms, just dry? I know that, I think it was, I don't remember which winter it was, if it was this past winter or which winter it was, but anyway, there was a really bad the temperatures dropped really low, which wasn't normal, how cold it got in the winter, for like maybe a week or something. And it for some people who were in certain areas, perhaps like higher up, like Marissa had mentioned, they had negative effects on their livestock. And do you remember that? And we had to take, precautions in how long certain animals were out in the elements because of the wind chill. So that's something to think about too. But also, if your heart is set on having like certain animals, yes, particular animals, if you really want to have certain ones, just make sure where you're looking, they're going to do well. They're going to thrive there. Or you can provide something to make them thrive. Because, you think about like zoos where they have these animals that's not where they're from. They're from, all sorts of jungles and stuff, and they're in these like open areas looking miserable. You want your animals to be happy and healthy.
Yeah. So, your climate and your weather are very important. You should know them before you're going into an area, especially if you're looking someplace not near you. Oh, hi, I found this property. It's 200 miles north. It's really the perfect place. You're thinking of relocating. It might be very different up there, and it may not align with what your goals are. I'm not saying it's a huge issue, but it could be an issue.
But see if you can talk to the locals, or
especially
even
with the growing seasons.
Yeah.
The growing seasons.
Yeah.
Growing seasons can be very different from, a couple hundred miles in latitude changes very drastically.
Yeah.
What were you saying, hon? I cut you off.
Oh, no, that's it.
Okay. So we talked about availability of water, the light exposure on our property, soil quality, topography, climate and weather, and then this is important too because you're not just a solitary individual. I think sometimes people, I got a question. I think sometimes people think these homesteaders are lunatic lone wolves who just go out and become hermits, but no, you're part of a wonderful community. You're part of a group of people. You're the homesteader families. Oh, look, the Joneses homeschool their kids. The Mitchells over there, they raise buffaloes, and the Johnsons are getting a new type of moose in. Everybody gets a thing. Yeah. So we're a community. We know each other. So, what were you saying?
I was going to say, you might be someone who's in a more highly populated area, and you're just like at your wit's end with being around so many people, and you're like, I don't want to be around anyone, I just want to live like a hermit, and then you end up buying a property that's like in the middle of nowhere, and then you're there, and then you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm going nuts because I have no one to talk to.
Some people are, what do you want to call it?
But by
quiet
nature,
and don't need like the interaction.
we are social people.
Creatures.
Humans are social, but there's a balance. And some are more social than others. So it is important to...
Leading into that.
Yeah.
The proximity, your property, this is the consideration. Proximity to your resources and the community, especially if you're selling stuff. You want to network, meet your farmers markets people, your swap meter people, and, develop a network, especially you're new in the area. You know, you don't know anybody. What are you going to do? Go to the farmer thing, join a church, say hi to the new neighbors, whatever you're doing. So you want to network a little bit, meet people, know who's on your side, the good guys are, know who the bad guys are. Mm-hmm. Now, my cousin he's not really my cousin, I just say that, because he's from the Netherlands and I'm half Dutch. So he's saying, are you living on the grid or off of the grid? You can never get away from the grid.
And man, what a challenge for life. Some people are like that.
Yeah, I don't think, we are grid people plugged in. I mean, if you shut off everything, I'd fare a lot better than 99% of the population, I think. But yeah, we are gridded up.
It's important to think about when, what...
Like, as far as electricity goes, yeah, so we're not producing our own electric.
It's important to think about, to be aware, because as soon as you lose the electric, the power goes off for a couple hours because of a storm or whatever, and then you have your candles lit, but you're still reaching for the light switch. It's
behavioral patterns.
It's important to seriously consider the dependence and reliance that we have on whatever, the water, the electric, the pumps working, and know what to do, and actually practice doing alternative methods if those things were to fail.
Yeah, so like Flyer Dad, one of the things about the whole homesteading is the self-sufficiency aspect. You want to be self-sufficient, and it would be great to be self-sufficient in everything. But the self-sufficient thing, in my mindset, I'm one of those prepper guys. Like, I want to be self-sufficient in case an emergency comes along. I'm not nuts about it. I don't sit around waiting for the nukes to go off. It might, but I'm not sitting around waiting for it. But, you're like, okay, worst case scenario, best case scenario, usually something in between those two happens. And I want to be, maintain a level of comfort and, decrease the anxiety if a situation should arise. What happened? Some loony bin just shut off all the electric and we're not going to have electric for a month. I'll be okay. I know everybody else will be going nuts, but now I'm going to have to adapt. So, yeah, you have a self-sufficient mindset.
Yeah, but it's important to set things up.
And practice.
What you're going to do if you lose power before it happens. Because then you want to make sure you can keep a level head and not go get emotional, because all of a sudden, if you didn't practice, if you didn't prepare, all of a sudden you're like, oh no, what am I going to do? It would have been really helpful had I set things up ahead of time, but now I'm in this position and you got to rig stuff up and problem solve in the dark, and
that's right.
If you have animals depending on you.
Absolutely. Are you listening, team leaders? And by team leaders, I mean you mommies and daddies out there. You're running the team. You got to be on point for the kids and show that, hey, I'm in control. Nothing to worry about. I already game planned this long before it happened. I know it's happening, and we're going to be okay. Maybe a little difficult, but it's nothing that we can't endure. It's just a challenge because you don't know what's coming and you're not prepared enough. And I'm not going to go on a tangent about prepping, is more, again, with the homesteading self-sufficiency stuff. Then, I'm adaptable. My mind can adapt. We got that problem. I can adapt to it. When you're homesteading, you're doing that all the time because problems are always coming up. Creatures die. A predator might come. Crops fail. Fence gets wrecked. Roof gets a hole. Car gets... whatever. Something's happening.
Things happen at the same time.
You can't go too wacky about it. And you got to adapt and overcome the problem, and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Makes sense? I think
that's
how I kind of try to operate anyway.
But the proximity to resources or community or other people it's a good thing to think about, because maybe there are some nearby farms who have similar values that you have. And maybe they have beehives and they're producing honey, and maybe they have milking animals like goats and cows. And maybe you don't have those animals, but you value that, right from the farm, right from the person, getting your milk or getting your honey. It's not, been processed or
selling your milk and selling your honey. The local, what do you call them, farmers markets. You know, you drive, oh my gosh, honey, look, there's 2 farmer markets on the way to our new property.
Right,
You know,
and then that's an opportunity for you.
Sell your products and meet people and start networking there.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. The community and resources too is like you know, think about food
and sharing skills with others, as far as
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how we learn.
And then also, I mean,
saying
you get to know people and then connections, and perhaps, you know, maybe there's somebody who's an expert in vets, you know, animal medicine or helping, you know, an animal in need or something or whatever, building or working on a rare tractor that you have, and you find out.
Yeah, if you're the outgoing type, it won't be very hard to barter your skills for somebody else's skills. Hey, I'll show you how to butcher and process these critters. You show me how to sew something or whatever your skill set is. And I think skill bartering is really awesome because that's not something you use and it goes away. Once you got it and you practice it, you have it and it just gets better and better. It improves and it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
So, you know, they've done that. I've done that. Show somebody how to butcher something, right? Now they have a skill and now they can teach somebody else. And hopefully, you know, they have something they can share back. Not required, be nice, but, you know, I'm happy to help somebody. Anyway, relocation considerations. Do you really want to move away from all your friends and family if it's a faraway place? And Flyer Dad said, yes, love that. He's talking about bartering skills. Yeah. So relocation, I think a consideration with that, not just the logistical stuff. I think it's more the emotional family stuff. Moving away from
to a distant property is what you're saying.
Yeah, to a distant property, like you get that nice property that's 300 miles north.
Or in a different state.
How long does it take to drive 300 miles? 300 hours if you're doing 1 mile an hour. So like, I guess, 50 miles an hour, like 6-7 hours, I don't know. So anyway, you're hours away all of a sudden from family. Is that doable, or do you need to be closer by? That might be a preventative. Or you just take the family with you who you don't want to leave behind. Usually it's parents or something, you know, they're getting older. So that's a big consideration.
Yeah, it is. Family,
and then you have to have both spouses down with that.
Family dynamics definitely plays a role, and everybody might be fine now, and maybe for the next 10 years or 5 years, but if you're younger and your parents are you know, fine, or even your grandparents, and then, you know, health complications occur, and just, you know, it's just good to have those conversations now, like before the family members do have issues, if they do at all. But everybody, you know, it's natural.
I'm going to have an issue if my kids are moving 8 hours away. You want to see the grandbabies. Yeah. You want to go whatever other things we like to do. I'm kind of going towards the whole like caring for older family members if that's important to you. If there's a plan, do you have other siblings, you know, that sort of thing. Because I've heard stories of people having difficulty, you know, with the parents being in a different state and then the traveling back and forth. And eventually they sell their house and move anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, there's just things to consider, yeah.
So think about that. I mean, that's a valuable point. It's a valid point. We don't really think about that too much until after you found a place. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, we're going to be 4 hours away. And we'll visit every weekend. And you start doing the negotiations in your head. And we do that all the time. We rationalize away problems to get the thing we want. Okay? It's a little trick we do. We do it all the time. Oh, she'll never find out. And, oh, I can do it this way. Anyway.
Yeah.
Moving away from family. So lastly on this section 2, evaluating potential properties. A big one I saved for last. Little disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer, nor do I claim to give legal advice.
Oh, wait. This one is important. Are you going to mention this one?
That's going to be after this one.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Legal stuff. So legal ordinances, et cetera, et cetera. So zoning laws, you know, take a look at, because this is important. I think people, not all of us are legal savvy with that. And it might be in the back of somebody's mind. They're not really in the forefront thinking about it, but it's an issue, especially when your hobby becomes a business. And you start wanting to make money or profit off of what you're doing. So what are the legal issues? Zoning and land use regulations. Well, take a look at it like this, man. oh, I want these 20, 30, whatever, a bunch of chickens. I'm going to get all these chicken eggs. Okay, great. Where are you putting your chicken house? I found the perfect spot for it right here. Can't do it. It's supposed to be 50 feet away from the street.
Line
yeah, whatever. The regulation. Oh, no, that's totally... And you went and wasted all this time doing a permaculture layout, to planning this property and all your structures. I mean, if you're working with a permaculture guy, he's obviously going to know what he's doing, and he's going to talk about this beforehand. But you don't want to plan anything without knowing what your zoning is, what kind of animals you can have, permits and licensing. What kind of permits or licensing do you need, especially for building? If you're putting structures on a property, which you may very well be doing, you're going to need permits. Is it true that in some states it's not legal to harvest rainwater? You know, you would think Stalin took over here. Yeah, they do have rainwater harvesting restrictions. So there's watershed properties. That's where the water sheds off the earth into reservoirs. There are areas that do prohibit and limit
something about collecting
water harvesting.
Rain
yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, off your roof.
Water harvesting.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there was. I haven't. It's been a long time.
What I do is I just hold my mouth open, catch it, and spit it in a bucket, so it's no rain collection off of the roof. Yeah, it's goofy. I'm sure to a bureaucrat it makes sense, and the EPA guys it makes sense. So,
or it could be. Well, I mean, I'm not. There's a lot of things discouraging people from pursuing.
And that has to do with my number 3 on my legal thing, though. Water rights and environmental regulations. That would be an environmental regulation over here. I don't know if it's state by state or county by county. I thought it was just a wacky story. My friend, I can assure you the United States has many a true thing that would qualify as a wacky story, but it still resides as a factual law or some kind of condition. It's a lot of wacky. That's the other reason I like homesteading. I'm not near all the wacky stuff.
But with the people who are involved with creating laws and regulations often are very much removed from what they're making laws about, and they make laws and then it really seriously detrimentally affects the people living who have to, like farmers or people who are depending on water sources and such, and then it becomes very messy, and then fixing it, going back and messing with the laws again. So it's a lot of it's just not the most fun conversation, I think, for some people, but good to know.
An environmental regulation that we're all familiar with is the wonderful farm runoff stuff, farm runoff. We all know about this because, especially here on the East Coast, we have this beautiful, used to be pristine water system, the Chesapeake Bay. It was vibrantly alive with life. Before the Industrial Revolution, but then all the pollutants and agricultural runoff went in there, killed off our beloved oyster populations, overfishing, etc., pollution and dirt, and it unfortunately did severe damage. Ooh, but the wonderful thing about nature, okay, no matter how filthy and destroyed that bay got, if you would just cease dumping pollutants in it, it would regenerate to its healthy, natural state of equilibrium relatively quickly. We see this in fish populations, right? You have a moratorium on fishing, and the fish population bounces back. Crabs, the cod, and other large fish species. Okay.
You got a nice...
Oh, a long one. Let me read. I got to pick up the old iPad for this. It's amazing to see how different it can be. Here in Holland, every household got to get a free water catchment system. Just take care of yourself instead of the water systems. And over here, they'll basically lock you up. Weird. Maybe not that bad, but... they'll probably fine you.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a lawyer. So I'm not giving advice about catching or not catching water. Only that it is regulated in areas, and at your homestead, it may be one of those water use environmental regulations that you're going to want to look into. I mean, you hear all the time, if you stalk around on Facebook and you go to these groups, nonstop, letters about chickens. They can't keep chickens.
Yeah.
Somebody will complain.
The coop, the perimeter, like where the coop is in relation to the neighbor's property, even if you have several acres, or the rooster, or you can only have a certain number.
Can I sound off? Because this really drives me insane. you can, and I'm going to use literally in the literal sense that literally should be used. You can literally walk into a grocery store and the vast majority of the food that they sell there will make you chronically ill. I'm not going to debate that. That is a fact. It's all ultra-processed, horrible garbage. Somebody wants to raise an animal and raise it organically on their own little home is having somebody break their back over it. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not going to say it's always fine to raise animals wherever you are. Of course, it's within reason. Yeah. But it's amazing how people are blatantly and overwhelmingly encouraged to poison themselves all day, every day, and discouraged to take care of themselves. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing I really try to inspire people to. Like, I do these idiot videos where I'm out doing biking or something dumb like that or cooking. It's not because, hey, look at me, I'm cool, an ego boost. You know, screw that. It's to say, hey, be encouraged. The quality of your life is really up to you. Not only is nobody looking out for the quality of your life, if you ask me, in my opinion, they're actively trying to detract and destroy it. Yeah, pretty much to make you a cash cow so that you can go into a grocery plagued store with medications. At least here in the U.S. I guess the Netherlands, they probably have better food. But here in the U.S., nothing but Doritos, donuts, and fried chicken. There was another comment as well. So, homesteading, yeah, I'm going to read it. Grow your own food, be healthy, learn about it, and let me read it here. Celine, I'm surprised that it's legal here in New Jersey. The water catching. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody's getting paid off of that. In Florida, wasn't it true during the Great Depression, the government encouraged people to have chickens? Yeah, the government did all kinds of wonderful stuff during that time, as long as you weren't getting money. As far as the encouragement of chickens, they did their gardens. I mean, we had victory gardens during World War II. And we had victory gardens during coronavirus. If you recall, they were encouraging people to grow gardens. Go on the old Google. You'll find some propaganda encouraging self-sufficiency during that time and growing gardens. But yeah, we had the Great Depression #1 in 1929. You know, people had to be encouraged to do self-sufficiency because nobody's working and there's no food. And going into Great Depression #2, I'm certain we're going to hear that again. Hopefully we don't go into Great Depression #2, but yeah. Okay. Anyway. So anything else with the legal stuff? Water rights? Ooh, big one. Property taxes. Okay? We here in Pennsylvania pay a car tax. They call it the emissions inspection. But I call it the car tax because they do it every single year. Mm-hmm. So we pay the car tax. Oh, good. Marcia said, ultra-processed people. The science behind the food that isn't food. Oh, great book. Or you said great book. I'm also saying great book. I'll have to check that out. I actually read a lot, so. And I like nonfiction, and I do like nutrition science nonfiction in particular. As well as cosmology, but I'll read about that. I'll check that out. Yeah, I'm a big food person. I mean, you think about it. I don't want to get into the whole bio thing, but we're exquisite organisms made up of trillions of these cells, mostly bacteria that isn't human, but then our human cells are great too, not just our gut microbiome. You know, and these beautiful cells and these beautiful structures are designed, I say designed, you may disagree with it, but any way you look at it, the architecture appears to be as if it's designed specifically to utilize these natural ingredients that are found in the environment that co-evolved with us. And what do? We destroy them, strip them down, put chemicals in them, hydrogenate them, and then eat them. And then wonder why we're dying of cancer, have depression, and get obese at the drop of a hat. Yeah. Okay. Adam's Adventure. Hey guys, I'm new to homesteading and posting my progress on YouTube. Awesome. I shall check you out. Are there any homesteading mistakes that newbies like myself should look out for? Any advice is really appreciated. Yeah, big one I'm going to give. My favorite one is doing too much at once. Oh, yeah. Like trying to, I'm going to do this, and this, because you want to have this full functioning system. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's fine if you got an army of people helping you. And you or you get a bunch of babies, different types of animals that are babies, or a lot of, chicken chicks, but then not anticipating, we think, oh, we have plenty of time. Like they're babies, they're gonna grow and then I'll have plenty of time to get everything ready for them. But oftentimes, they grow and then it's just a lot of, energy to create
houses, coops, if you have to do that, to set things up for them. Sometimes we don't anticipate how much space or what their real true needs are.
Yeah, I think the homesteading, if you look at it like any other endeavor, there's usually baseline fundamentals that you should be following. And I think like being intentional, like we always talk about goal-oriented. What is the intention of this project that I'm about to engage in? What is the outcome I'm expecting? And I write this down. I want to quantify it. I want to have a timeline. I want to have a reason for doing it. A lot of people don't operate that way. I don't know if you do or not, but again, having a goal, being intentional, and knowing, what your outcome, your expected outcome is going to be, and why.
Yeah, and research. Whatever you're focusing on, make sure to do enough research to understand. For example, if you're getting, let's just say meat chickens, they grow quickly. They're awesome, to have to fill your freezer.
We just talked about meat chickens last week, didn't we?
Probably. But you're going to want to anticipate their growth, the amount they're eating. Any animal you're growing for meat, you're going to anticipate how much they're eating. Because as they grow, they're going to eat more. And the space they need, the space they're in, their manure, and then also processing them. Are you going to be processing them? How much time are you anticipating is it going to take? So whatever animal, plant, endeavor, it doesn't have to be living, that you're thinking about pursuing, do enough research so that you understand pretty much like the big picture of handling it.
Flyer Dad made a good point. Don't be too hard on yourself. Okay, everybody makes mistakes.
Yes.
You're right. Thank you.
Yeah, that's true.
What the hell was I about to say about that? I get sidetracked to start thinking about something. So mistakes to avoid when homesteading. I was about to say, and it made sense. Whatever, I forget. The freezers and your equipment, like especially with the meat stuff, if you're doing that, freezers get filled up quick. But I think the big one is just going too much all at once.
Yeah.
It'll overwhelm you. It'll become demoralizing. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. It'll overwhelm you. It'll become demoralizing when you're like, oh my God, I gotta finish this fence. And if you're working a regular people job and then you're coming home and doing this extra stuff and you have it all, it's overwhelming.
Because these are, if you have living, things, animals or plants, they need tending to. They depend on you. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say don't do.
It's all wonderful, but you want to be prepared and not overwhelm yourself.
Yeah. So, and if this is new to you, understand that it's labor, it's work. So the good thing is you get in shape, because your body's going to be doing all this new movement if you're not used to doing that. You're going to be digging, moving, carrying, cutting, waking up early, okay? Behavioral changes. You're going to be more self-disciplined in a lot of areas. You're going to have to be because you got all these critters, if you have animals anyway, that are depending on you. So you have to be disciplined and wake up and do them on a regular basis, a consistent schedule, etc. So, it's work. So preparing yourself mentally for that kind of endeavor. But again, like I said at the beginning of this, that you probably didn't see, it's extremely rewarding. And I did a video on that totally separately about the reward of enduring a suffering. The reward of pain. Like pain,
there's so much growth in it.
People look at that as such a negative thing because we don't like pain. It's a huge incentive to not do anything. I always call pain and fear the great incentive to inaction, so we don't do anything. People think, oh, it makes me run away. It makes you not do anything. Fear and inaction go hand in hand. So we want to avoid these things. Or deal with them, I'm sorry, not avoid them. We want to engage fear. Fear is good. We want to engage them, but we do not want to become inactive and ineffective because of fear. You know what they say about courage? Courage doesn't mean not being afraid. Courage means facing fear and engaging with your fear. Okay? That's the courage. It's okay to be afraid. And that's where the pain and that, I don't mean like go suffer and misery, but it's not, it's not a pleasure. It's either pleasure or it's not. And it's not a pleasure to be waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go out in the freezing cold rain because of a sheep got out or a goat's running somewhere or doing something like this. Or like I did, shoveling flood water in the middle of
a sudden downpour.
In the middle of the night, like when I was extremely exhausted. But then you're like, I'm here, it has to be done, I will do it, and things, and I did this and I got this done. You become a better person. You become a better leader for your family. Okay, it's not saying you're not a good person now, you're worthwhile, but you become more of who you're supposed to be when you engage in the difficult things. So look at your children, think about your kids. If you have kids, do I say, oh, that looks really hard, don't try it? Who does that? Of course not. I remember my kids were little, I did failure training. I specifically gave them tasks I knew they couldn't complete, or I knew they would fail at it. And I wanted to see them keep trying, just to say, well, what happened? Were you able to complete this task? Like, no, Daddy, I fell, or whatever. It was like, okay, now is that good or bad? It's bad. I was like, no, it's very good because you attempted something and we're going to do it again. And you know what? You may never be able to accomplish it, but you don't stop the pursuit of the accomplishment. So keep going. You probably will accomplish. So.
He had responded.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There are two comments.
Thank you, guys. It's really helpful. I'm a 4th-gen farmer. Ooh, that's
Very
awesome.
experienced.
Yeah, and a carpenter by trade. Well, you got
That's
it made
awesome.
then. I don't know what you're asking me for. I should come over your house. Because you got a lot of good experience already. Carpenter by trade. So animals and building I have a fair idea about. It's more the homestead lifestyle I'm still learning about. Right on. The homestead lifestyle.
Yeah, managing,
It's
management of everything.
It's very different. I don't know what your lifestyle was prior or what your motivation was to engage in it. Like that's a deep psychological, emotional read kind of thing, I think. Like I'm gonna come fess up about like my life before we were together was a little different.
Yeah, it's very different.
I was a wild maniac, I would not really a wild maniac.
Well, you were before, but you had calmed way down.
I had a regular people life. I'd go out to dinner, go out to the bar or something.
5 minutes from whatever.
Living in like a metropolitan area, having fun. It was not something I preferred. I wound up in that area for a few years.
Mm-hmm. You're kind of like a fish out of water, so it wasn't.
Here or there?
There, in a way that.
Yeah, I didn't. It wasn't my kind of thing.
Much better fit here.
So it was like regular people, like I call them the normals. Like they go to work, they go to the grocery store, but here I am walking around with a machete strapped to my back through the woods, barefoot hacking, and they think I'm coming to kill them. Like, what are you doing with the machete? It's like, whoa, cutting trails. Man, you watch too much true crime TV, I guess. I don't know. So then we're up here in the woods where everybody wears a machete on their backs and walks around barefoot, so it's not abnormal. So, yeah. So, talking about the whole transition from one lifestyle to another. It can be difficult, but you'll get through it. And I'm like, what I was saying at the beginning of this thing is that the reward is so great if you employ it properly into your mindset. The reward is so fulfilling that you'd be like, man, I should have been doing this a long time ago. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of, I don't get to go to the parties, and I don't have the same amount of time to do this, or whatever it is you used to do, old behaviors, they change. And the new behaviors, I think, are better. I mean...
Yeah, and just with your question, with the lifestyle, I would say the management of everything is important to, determine priorities, and not to become overwhelmed. So that's part of managing things. And what I mean is tasks, taking care of tasks, tending to the creatures, the property, the structures, prioritizing, the most important things that have to be done, making sure you're using your time wisely, being organized the best that you can be. I'm not sure what kind of personality you are, but some people are more scattered brain, some people are more focused brain. And so, but then it's complementing. And you determine, what your strengths and weaknesses are. It's important to know what they are, to not be in denial about them, so that you understand yourself. and what you can do to.
And it helps if your family is on the same path as you.
Yes.
100%.
Very,
yeah,
very,
that's
yes.
true. Because you do have the time where it's like spouse versus spouse.
Yeah, and you're just
right?
and you want. It's important to be able to encourage each other. Yeah.
Oh, one other thing, homesteading is not like, what is it? What's that Instagram where you're wearing a white dress and holding a chicken and everything's pretty with a flower? No.
Sitting in a barnyard.
It's mud and feces and straw. So pretty women in dresses, no. Mud, feces, straw, and hay, yes. I think that sums it up. What would you prioritize first? My cabin is under construction. I have an outhouse. What would you recommend to do next? Bear in mind, I'm fully off grid. Oh my gosh, that's a big question. What would you prioritize?
So you would want to assess
your
living
there's no
situation.
other assets there.
Yeah, you would want to assess your most basic needs.
Well, I'm going back to the goals question.
Yeah.
Because if it's actually good, the position you're in, because you have a blank tapestry to work from. If you're just working with a cabin in an outhouse, then I would go back to square one. What are your goals overall? Because you want to, I hate saying you want to give directions. It's best, I think, in my opinion, to have a plan, like a quantifiable or at least a delineated plan and a set objectives to guide me to know what I'm doing, rather than just going off the fly with the I want blank. Well, yeah, you want blank, but now you're going to ask, why do you want blank? Does blank work here, and where does blank fit in the total scheme of all the other things that I want to have combined here eventually, or at the same time, depending what your timeline is. So, I know that sounds like a crap answer, because you want a solid thing. Well, I got an outhouse and a cabin. What should I build next? A garden? I don't know the property. What's the shade like? What's the soil like? What kind of resources do you have nearby? How close is the water? This stuff we talked about earlier.
You want to, if you're living there now, or if you're anticipating living there, you're going to want to be thinking about your comfort level, and the environment, the cabin, the outhouse, like. What are you comfortable in? Is it set up yet where you're going to be throughout all the seasons, wherever you are?
Cold weather comes
comfortable,
quick.
Where you're able to just like live life, because you don't want to be struggling just to like be alive. So you want just your basic needs.
Unless he's very young.
Well, but if you want to expand a homestead, your basic needs need to be met so that you don't have to be thinking about that. So once you have your setup arranged or developed to the point where you're happy with it, you're not going to have any major stresses, because your home is supposed to be kind of like a safe haven, and where you can like relax. Because being in a homestead, it's like we already talked about, it is work, it's physical work, it's problem solving.
It's work sometimes.
So then if you don't have anything else, from there, I would definitely recommend, if you really want to like go into some sort of growing something, whether it be animals or plants, I would recommend not to go, too big. Just get something simple like chickens or quail or meat rabbits. I'm a big fan of, no matter what size property you have, tiny or big, basics to me are the jumbo quail, because they're awesome, because they're good for meat and eggs, high producers of both. Meat rabbits, because they're quick growers, they're quiet, they're easy to take care of, and you can get a lot of good meat that's meat that you can use on all sorts of dishes. And then also the Muscovy ducks, because their meat is much like it's like sirloin steak. It's like a miniature cow.
And all these animals are quiet.
Yeah, it's an easier duck to. It's a type of duck to care for. It's not hyper. So, what if you're bare bones? Then you're gonna want to like start, small, so you don't overwhelm yourself.
But it depends.
That's the best thing I could say.
So, thank you very much, ma'am. I'm going back to the whole goals question. I don't mean to give a vague question, but it would be like asking, what kind of car should I get?
Yeah.
I don't know. Give me more information, and I could, give you my opinion. So, but. That's why I said the whole thing with the goal. If you know what your goal is, you know what kind of car you should get. And if you know what your goal is, and you have a set of goals, and you've actually thought about them and wrote them down, it'll make more sense as to why you want to implement A, B, or C.
Right.
And then you'll have a plan on how to get that done. You'll have an idea financially what it's going to be, right? Timelines, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's the best answer I can give
With a little info.
with the data that was provided. Does that seem sufficient as an answer? Okay, so I think we're done talking about all the fun legal stuff. Oh, one more thing, cottage laws I want to talk about very quickly, which has to do with sales. Thanks, guys. That's been very helpful. Oh, thanks. I hope so. I hope it was some use. I mean, it's not a BS answer, but definitely the goal thing. But moving on. Cottage laws, food laws. So these, if you're selling food, a lot of people do, you're selling a food product. There's regulations with the food, depending on your state. Call your, what is it, U.S., who do we call for eggs? The DA? USDA?
I think so. It's been a little while since we did that.
The cottage laws refers to the selling of the non-volatile foods, I suspect, out of your domicile, from home, or your cottage, like cottage industries, the small, artisanal industries. You make baked bread, baked goods, jellies, etc., things like that. There are laws, but they're not as strict with those home goods. You see people selling them at the farmers markets. But you're looking at, again, you're going back to your goals. Is that something you want to do? Learn about the food laws, food sales, what kind of regulations they have, labeling requirements, okay, because there's labeling requirements, inspection requirements, if there are any. So a lot of these cottage foods, there's not a lot of inspection requirements unless there's an issue. Again, not a lawyer, nor giving legal advice, but take a look at what your laws are in the area you're moving into if selling goods may be one of your goals, or if it is one of your goals, because in the future you're going to want to know that. Okay, so food sales, any kind of business stuff, really. Learn about the taxation, regulations, permits, and all that fun stuff. But that's a huge issue I'm not going to go into. There's tons of classes on that. People charge a good dime just for that kind of stuff to learn about, because it's...
I think we should...
Reevaluating current property, and I think that would go to Adam's Adventures, because he's already on a current property where he has his cabin.
Yeah.
So, I wrote this in a few sections. Understanding goals, evaluating potential properties, legal issues, and reevaluating current properties. Because a lot of people, they're not looking for a new property. They have a property. They're just wondering, what can I do with my property?
Or maybe they haven't even considered the idea or had vision at all for the property they're on, and for a while
they throw it away and get a new one.
They just want to go somewhere else, and there might be a lot of potential where you are now, even if you don't have a lot of space. Because there's so many different creative things you can do.
All right, we saw a lot of... Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I cut her off.
It's fine.
We saw a lot of people transforming their regular suburb homes into mini-steads or mini homesteads during this corona apocalypse crap that was going on. A lot of people, the bedroom communities, just the cul-de-sac communities, people started raising gardens and bunny rabbits and quails and chickens in their backyard that used to be nothing but those little turtles with sand in it.
Sandboxes?
Yeah, a little turtle with sand in it and little mini pools and tricycles. All of a sudden they became gardens and chicken houses.
Even if you don't have...
Which were not traditional farms. These were like single family homes, not like regular
because you're thinking
farms
about
with
food,
farm amenities.
Making some sort of food. And maybe you don't have a lot of space for a garden. And I mentioned already you could go grow up. There's lots of vertical garden ideas. But you could also do sprouts. Sprouts are nutrient dense, and you can set up a bedroom or a closet or a space underneath your stairs with grow lights. And sprouts grow very quickly. And then you can harvest that for your foods.
That's great for the apartment people. The apartment people like, I can't do anything, which isn't true. Like she said, like the sprouts are actually very good, especially if you're coming from the mindset of nutrition and food production. Here, the sprouted seeds, they become extremely nutrient dense due to the enzymatic process of making baby plants. They start breaking down starches and they start producing different nutrients to nurture the plant and build the plant up. So you have these super nutrient dense organisms once they sprout. It's really fascinating. But yeah, so reevaluating your current property. What is your current property? What are we looking for? Same thing we were talking about before. I want to transfer my land. So what should I think about? Like we were talking about earlier, water sources, light exposure. Can you change light exposure? Maybe a couple limbs need to be chopped down to open up a backyard for your garden. Is the garden even doable? What's the soil like? Do I need to bring some soil in?
Do you need to do like potted plants, big potted plants? And then there's aquaponics. People do, I think, the
fishies,
the whole cycle with that that they feed
fish and plants, and it's a permaculture system.
There's all sorts of things that you can do in a small space.
Yeah. So reevaluating your current property, can it be used? And that, I think, too, you're going to be looking at your ordinances, your local issues, like the cul-de-sac people, the single-family homes where the houses are like that far apart, and everybody's neighbors. Can you raise creatures there? A lot of people were raising chickens, but they couldn't have any roosters. Vertical planting is also worth a try. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Stacking. So, taking a look at your current property, what are the assets you have? People always have a tendency to feel a pinprick rather than the sun. What does that mean? You feel the pain, or you see what's wrong with the property rather than what's good with it. So, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. You know, people have this mindset. Again, we create blocks, mental blocks. We create barriers for ourselves, all mindset stuff. Oh, I can't do it. I really wanted to have this here, and okay.
Yeah, and some people have a hard time with vision and looking at a space, maybe a new space or a space they've been staring at for years and just lack vision. And if that's the case, then go and look at ideas online. There's so many of them.
Not Instagram.
You want it to be realistic, but Google, you know, something, a scenario similar to what you have, or just look at images or look at YouTube channels. Listen to people and get inspired, and then start looking at your space and thinking, like, what can I do with this space? What do you have? And how Christopher just mentioned with trimming trees and stuff, there's always vision is, you know, can take it far.
So there's this tech term, I guess it's a tech term, or social engineering term. It's called crowdsourcing. You're crowdsourcing an answer. And what's great is that the crowd's providing the answer for free. And it's free and abundant. So that's one of the good uses of the internet, is that free crowdsourcing, like she was talking about. There's a ton of available ideas, even shortcuts, or no, I say shortcuts, but different ways to do different things. Problem solving, things you never would have thought of, that the community out there is dispensing for free. You know, we're one little channel, but there's, you know, all of these many other people giving out ideas for free that you can use to incorporate in your own yard setup, like she was saying. So put a little time in. My thing is with the whole self-sufficiency thing is spend as little as possible, not just to be cheap, but you're being efficient. Like I'm gonna accomplish this goal with a low budget. Like our Facebook thing, we did all of our marketing for $0.
Oh, that's a good point. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, asking's good.
What you're saying,
make friends that way.
With your saying, spend as little as possible, where appropriate.
Where appropriate.
There are certain things where you don't want to skimp and you want to do quality, because it'll like create issues if you don't, like a certain wrap area.
Well, I'm menting like if you can invest elbow grease and investment of knowledge, you're going to save.
You don't have to do things.
You don't have to pay. You're not going to have to hire a contract or an outside party to perform a skill that you can develop with just a few hours of practice and understanding. You may not be proficient and master it, but it may be sufficient enough to get your job done.
Yeah.
I think I've done plenty of those tasks.
Yes, you have. Yes.
I save money. Okay. All right. I think we're getting towards the conclusion of all this blabbering. I'm sweating like a swine. It gets hot in here. It's like
we have these lights.
Yeah. Anything else important to do with reevaluating current property? I mean, I don't want to do a rehash of what we just went through, but don't think that you can't do something with your property. And a lot of people watch these kinds of videos and they don't do anything. They're like, oh, that seems like a great idea, or like, ooh, I want to do that one day. And it seems like a catharsis of action, like you're again motivated to inaction because somebody's already doing it, and you feel good, like, oh, that seems like a great idea. I'll try that one day. Don't try it one day, just try it today. You know, get up, go write down your plan for growing your tomato, or go even just buy the pre-grown tomato. You have to start. You have to start. You don't have to start big, but you have to start if it's something you want to do. There's no shame in buying a pre-grown tomato and watching it grow the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Maybe next year you start a seed, or maybe next year you buy a whole tray of them and grow a bunch. You don't have to start huge. You're not out to impress anybody. We're not here. Nobody cares. They're doing their own thing. The whole idea is a quality of life and a satisfaction with our existences. And that one little tomato just may satisfy.
Yeah. Yeah. You had mentioned earlier how when we were talking about soil, like maybe you don't have good soil, and maybe you don't have a lot of space with soil. With maybe it's poor soil.
Getting fish again.
No. Well, I had mentioned an easy animal to grow for meat would be meat rabbits.
They're very cute.
Yeah. Anyway, they produce a lot of very good manure that can go directly on the soil, and it won't burn the plants. It's not hot. So we used our manure from our meat rabbits and others, and we mixed it in the soil. And now Christopher had mentioned how it's very rich and good now for the plants. And, you know, that's something that you can do as well.
Yeah, you don't, there's an old saying, I don't know if it's an old saying, maybe it's a new saying, I don't know. But you don't grow plants. You grow soil.
Yeah.
It's the soil that's important. It's not the plant. The plant just does what plants do. And it requires healthy soil. The soil is extremely important. Marissa, if she's still watching, she knows this. Like, that's where the healthy plant comes from. It's not coming from the plant. It's coming from the living organism it's growing in. The soil. We don't think about dirt like a living organism because we wash it off of our hands. We think, well, it's just dirt. It's an amazing and vibrant living tapestry of bacteria, fungi, and viral particles everywhere. So
yeah, I think. Do you have anything else?
I have nothing else. I think that'll do it for tonight, guys. I appreciate everybody coming in. If you had fun, hit the likey, subscribe button.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, this is as long as you're not on Mars. Yeah, right. You remember that comment. Yeah, that Mars soil is no good for anything. Yeah, we try to do useful information here and not ramble. I ramble, but we try to do like I said, educational stuff on a specific subject. I'm doing this for like a while now. I'm telling you, dudes, it is not easy coming up with new ideas every week for years now and doing them. But I like doing that because I like to do the whole education thing. I believe knowledge is the key to an enhanced quality of life. I always told my kids, and I've said this before in here, everybody loves music, but the musician appreciates it in a much deeper and intimate fashion that he appreciates it more, and he derives more pleasure from it because he knows it so well. So the more knowledge you have, I think the greater the quality of your life. I'm not talking about being a brainiac. I'm just talking about doing things and experiencing things. That is knowledge. And now you have an understanding. And
it was inspiring.
Oh, thank you. I hope so. Well, life is short. We should do good things. Do good to other humans if you can. And enjoy it while you're here.
Yeah.
I guess that'll suffice. All right, everybody. We sure do appreciate you.
Thank you so much for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, even after the live video is over, feel free to drop them and we will answer.
Yeah, if you have a suggestion for a topic you would like to hear, let me know. Do the work for me because I'm coming up with all the topics. But if you got one, let me know and we'll do that. I'm going to click off and say goodbye to everybody. We'll see you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye to YouTube over here.